Sometimes I'll cover a topic related to community issues, and I'll get comments to the effect of, can't we just play the game instead of worrying about that topic? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is a frustrating response to see. It's one that misunderstands all the work I've done on this channel for all these years. The most frustrating part is that anyone who thinks this way probably isn't going to stick around long enough in the video to let me explain why it's wrong, but I'm going to do my best to keep it short and put it out there anyway, just in case someone gives it a chance. The underlying assumption of, can't we just play the game, is that what I'm talking about is unrelated to the game. And that has never been true. This YouTube channel is, and has always been, about the game of Splatoon. Every topic I've ever covered in a short or a main channel video came up specifically because of the game. Maybe it wasn't the mechanics of how brushes work or the overtime rules for Rainmaker. But if not, then it might have been someone's in-game mindset, or some external force that's impacting the way we play the game of Splatoon. Yes, it's, quote, also dating advice, unquote. But the reason I talked about dating advice in the first place was that on a coordinated team, you're not going to play your best with teammates you aren't compatible with, or that you don't have a good rapport with. If you build good, emotionally stable relationships with other people, it makes you better at the game of Splatoon. So since this channel's about getting better at Splatoon, I talked about it. I talked about squid bagging, because while yes, it does actually tactically make you worse at the game, you're wasting time you could be spending taking a better position on the map or painting for special or something, but it also makes us worse at the video game for having a corrosive effect on the community. People don't want to play with people who squid bag them in an unsportsmanlike way, so if we do it, we silently and invisibly lose people who would otherwise enjoy playing with us. If we hook them now, even if it takes being kinder to them, even if we have to coddle them, they can go on to commit more and invest more and develop the thicker skin a squid bagger would tell them it's their fault for not having. If they leave because they saw that this is how competitive players treat each other, that won't happen. I value gender diversity in our community because gender diversity makes us better at the game of Splatoon. The best backliner in North America right now is a woman. That's not something you can say about a lot of spaces because women are often harassed or creeped out of spaces they'd otherwise be happy to occupy. That's why I talked with Rose about the experience of growing up as a girl playing video games, because it makes us better at the video game when more women and girls feel comfortable continuing to play the game with us. They go on to become our teammates, our rivals, our coaches, top players to VOD review for their unusually sophisticated sniper raider positioning. All of that makes us better at the game of Splatoon. I talked about trans rights, because we are better at the game of Splatoon for having trans people in our community. There are top players who are trans. Trans people have been my teammates. A trans person taught me how to paint better with a bunch of different weapons. A trans person made a trailer that inspired my editing. There are trans people in all levels of tournament organization and production, without which we would have less and poorer practice at the game of Splatoon. Having an inclusive community doesn't matter because your second grade teacher told you it does. It matters because the more people you have, the more talent you have access to, and the more cool things get done. Splatoon being more inclusive makes us better at the game of Splatoon. There are some people that just don't want to be confronted with controversy. They think that being in community with those around them means ignoring points of conflict and maintaining the status quo so a conversation never gets heated. Now, yes, there are more tactful ways to approach controversies in conversation, but avoiding them entirely is putting your head in the sand. It is a fundamentally childish way to see the world. In the adult world, you are not insulated as much as children are from people who want to hurt you, systems that don't work as intended, and the spread of harmful ideas. You have a lot of power. The power to vote, the power to spread information, good or otherwise. That's exciting to kids, to have that power, but the reason kids don't get it is that even if you yourself aren't the one out in the streets attacking people or in offices of power cutting off people's access to things they need, you can absolutely hurt people if the things you think about, the controversial topics you'd rather avoid, are poorly thought out. Most people don't want to have conversations about them, but they do anyway because they're important. A person with a mature adult mindset realizes that there are some controversies that have major impacts on the lives of people around them, and so it is grossly irresponsible not to take them seriously and think them through. They recognize that the harm they can do by being poorly informed is much worse than the discomfort they experience by having their ideas challenged. Yes, even in the competitive Splatoon community, no matter how cartoony and ridiculous the game is that we're organized around, we are still a real-life community of people. We are charged with protecting each other at events and online, with keeping our culture positive and our people happy, just the way any other organization of people is. Because among other things, doing that makes us better at the game of Splatoon. I'm not trying to make videos about politics. I don't cover elections. I'm not a pundit. I'm not going to try and convince you of what the Federal Reserve should do about interest rates, or argue about a two-state solution in Palestine, or harp on and on and on about the algae content of the reflecting pool in DC. But everything we want to do that matters, or means something, is going to be influenced by politics. Splatoon is no exception. So where it becomes relevant, I'm going to discuss which decisions are conducive to people becoming better at the game of Splatoon, whether those are deemed controversial or not.